suit against the software giant in the biggest antitrust dispute in decades. Tonight, we have an in-depth look at this extraordinary confrontation. First, the assault from Washington, what regulators are charging and why. Then the response from Redmond. Bill Gates will tell us how he plans to beat the government in court. And the uneasy reaction on Wall Street today, why investors are worried about more than just Microsoft's legal bills. We begin tonight with what one legal scholar is calling the Super Bowl of antitrust litigation. Steve Young reports from Washington.
It's the biggest antitrust case since the government filed to break up AT&T back in the early 1980s. The federal government and 20 states accuse Microsoft of misusing its Windows operating system monopoly to try to grab monopoly control of other software products. The prosecutors want Microsoft either to put Netscape's internet browser in Windows 98 or eliminate all browsers and let them compete in the marketplace. The government says it is protecting innovation, not punishing it, as Microsoft claims.
Microsoft has an excellent record of innovation, but we want to make sure that the field is open to the next Microsoft.
Among the charges, the Justice Department says Microsoft tried to force Netscape into an illegal conspiracy to divide the internet market.
Now, when Netscape rejected that offer, Microsoft then went about using its Windows monopoly to, in Microsoft's own words, and I quote, cut off Netscape's air supply.
The suit from the states is broader than the federal government's case. It says Microsoft is using its Windows muscle to boost the market share of the company's suite of applications products known as Microsoft Office. Like the federal government, the states say they want to stop Microsoft from using its Windows monopoly to put a chokehold on internet commerce.
But what we are saying to Bill Gates, in a very real sense, is stop your 800-pound gorilla from blocking access to the internet information superhighway.
How ironic that in the United States, where freedom and innovation are core values, these regulators are trying to punish an American company that has worked hard and successfully to deliver on these values. We believe an antitrust lawsuit is counterproductive, costly to the taxpayers, and ultimately will be unsuccessful in the courts.
Nobody is trying to stop Microsoft from shipping Windows 98. Prosecutors say they want to increase, not curtail, consumer choice. The states and the federal government say they're confident they can win a court order directing Microsoft to make requested changes in Windows 98 before it goes on sale June 25th. Lou?
Steve, thank you very much. Steve Young reporting live from Washington. Well, Microsoft's public relations campaign didn't stop regulators from pressing their case, but the message seemingly impressed President Clinton. In London today, the president warned, as Microsoft has itself in recent weeks, that his administration action could affect far more than just one company.
This is not just an open and shut case of, one party sues somebody else. This is something that will have a significant impact on our economy. But I think that based on what I know, I have confidence in the way the Antitrust Division has handled this. And while it's pending, at this time, I think I should stick with my policy and not comment.
Well, Microsoft Chairman Bill Gates doesn't agree. Today, he predicted that the government will lose its antitrust case. Gates called the lawsuit a step backwards for America, for consumers, and the PC industry. I talked with Gates earlier today from Microsoft's headquarters in Redmond, Washington. Let me ask you first, Bill, are you surprised that neither the attorneys general nor the Justice Department sought to enjoin you from shipping Windows 98?
Well, in fact, their lawsuit includes a preliminary injunction where they're asking that we re-engineer the product and take out the internet support, or that we ship a competitor's product with every copy. And so they're asking for something really very surprising there.
Surprising, but are you surprised they didn't actually try to stop the shipment, as had been reported in a number of quarters, actually stop the shipment of the product itself?
Well, the preliminary injunction they're asking for is exactly their way of trying to stop what we're doing. They think that putting the browser into the operating system is a design decision they don't like, and we've done that on behalf of users.
In terms of leveraging that operating system, whether one defines it a monopoly or not, how would you describe the way in which you are incorporating other components and other elements such as Office, the IE4, the Internet browser? How would you describe that?
Well, you can look at the history of the personal computer industry, which is, I think, a fantastic thing. You know, how do we get to the point where people can choose from hundreds of hardware manufacturers, where they can choose thousands of applications, where there's record level of investments being made in new software companies? Part of the reason for that is to have a platform like Windows, where we're constantly adding new things and improving that platform. One of the most exciting things is our addition of internet support, so that applications can build on top of the internet capabilities that we have there. We're also doing that for users so that it's easier for them to navigate the information. They don't have to learn one way to get their help text, one way to look at local information, and another way to look at the internet. And so the history of new things, whether it's graphical interface or internet support, those are the things that have driven this industry to the incredible empowerment and success that it's had.
You're really talking about customizing your user interface rather than creating or interposing their own interface. Isn't that correct?
Well, any user has total flexibility. They can double-click on something and then they're off in any user interface they want to create. But the very first screen will have elements of Windows. That's what the Windows brand name stands for. We put a lot of research into that, and people expect that consistency. They want it, and so there are a few elements that we've asked to be preserved in the very first screen.
I guess that gets in some ways to something that's really at the heart of this bill, and that is when you or I buy a Compaq or an IBM or a Hewlett-Packard, are we buying those brand names or are we buying Microsoft's Windows? Which do you see?
Well, certainly, if you're buying a product that incorporates Windows, you're picking that hardware because you like the price, you like the performance, you like the warranty, you like the additional software that they've chosen to put with that machine, and you have many, many choices in doing that. Also, if you've picked a Windows PC, you have some expectation there, an expectation that if you know how to use Windows, it's going to operate in a certain way, and then it will run Windows applications. The PC industry gives people those capabilities. If we go back to the old computer industry, when you bought from a manufacturer, every user interface was different, the applications were all different, and that meant that there was no ability to switch, no choice, and everything was very, very expensive. So it's the PC industry that has created consumer choice without the government stepping in to try and restrict the design of Windows, including supporting the internet.
The government has obviously stepped in a big way against your company. There are those who are suggesting that should the government be successful, this will not only change the way Microsoft does business, but the way the entire computer industry does business. You have said today that you are ready to commit substantial resources. Indeed, it looks as though substantial resources would be required if this is a long, drawn-out battle. How far will you go?
Well, Microsoft will continue to have most of its resources focused on building great software, doing the things we've always done of listening to users, doing the research, and charging ahead, making Windows better and better. We will have to put some resources into the lawsuit. A lot of taxpayers' dollars likewise will go against the lawsuit. It's something we had hoped to avoid, but standing up for this principle of being able to integrate more functionality in on behalf of consumers, that's important enough to us that certainly we'll put the resources there, and we're confident we'll prevail.
Bill, thank you very much, as always. Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
Bill Gates, chairman of Microsoft. Well, Bill Gates may be confident Microsoft will prevail. The world's richest man should be. He's fully capable of outspending the U.S. Justice Department in hiring legal firepower. But as Kelly Arena reports, the government's more modest legal team still makes a formidable opponent.
Bill Gates is trying to promote himself as the underdog. It's a tough sell, especially to his competitors.
They have amassed a pretty good reserve of cash. They'll spend it to defend themselves, and to some degree, they may have more resources than the Department of Justice.
Microsoft, which is expected to make $4.7 billion this year, has an impressive legal arsenal, headed up by the law firm Sullivan & Cromwell. And some odds makers are giving Microsoft the edge.
Government has to rely on outside consultants to teach it all about the technology which Microsoft has helped to create. And Microsoft also will have access to all the other players in the industry who are somewhat dependent upon them for support as witnesses and consultants.
But don't count Justice and its 344 attorneys out just yet. While this year's budget gives it $94 million to fight all antitrust battles, the government can count on pro bono help from some Microsoft foes.
IBM, which is many times the size of Microsoft, Sun Microsystems, Netscape, Novell, and a whole slew of other companies whose legal minds will be available to the Justice Department. The Justice Department also has available to it the legal staff of 20 states that are concurrently filing suit against Microsoft.
And the government has staying power as well. It fought IBM for 13 years before the suit was dropped.